My parents ditched my baby shower to go wine tasting with my sister. Then mom texted, "She's the real daughter." I said, "Cool, consequences coming." Next day, someone tried pulling $2K from my account. I froze everything. 2 hours later, phase 2 began. I was 7 months pregnant the morning everything detonated. I was standing in my kitchen in San Diego, staring at my phone like it had just slapped me, because apparently my mother, Caroline, had attempted to pull $3,500 out of my business account at 8:13 a.m. The app showed the notification in bright red like a warning light. Transfer denied, suspicious activity. I didn't react right away. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood there, one hand on my belly, the other gripping the edge of the counter hard enough my knuckles hurt. This was the morning after the baby shower nobody from my family bothered to come to. Not one of them. Not my mother, not my father Walt, and definitely not my sister Serena, the golden daughter. The one who always needed rescuing from whatever disaster she'd created that week. I kept waiting yesterday, dressed, then redressed, telling myself they were running late. That they'd walk through the door any second. But instead, at 2:09 p.m., as guests were handing me gifts and pretending not to notice the empty chairs in the front row, Caroline texted me a photo. Not an apology, not a "we're on our way." A photo. My parents and Serena sitting at a winery in Temecula, wine flights lined up like a tasting menu of betrayal. Serena had her hair curled perfectly, wearing sunglasses like she was on a magazine cover. My mom was smiling wide, genuine, relaxed, like she hadn't skipped the one event I actually cared about. I remember my stomach dropping so fast it felt like falling. I texted, "You forgot today." 4 minutes later, she replied, "Serena's had a rough year, she needed this. You'll understand someday. She's my real girl anyway, you're strong. You'll be fine." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Something in me snapped so cleanly it felt like a bone breaking. I went the entire night numb, cleaning empty plates, smiling for photos, accepting gifts while pretending I didn't feel hollow. I didn't tell my husband, Marcus, everything, just that I was done. When I woke up this morning, I thought maybe the worst part had already happened. Then I saw the attempted transfer, $3,500, to Serena Rhodes, from my business account, an account only one family member ever had access to years ago because Caroline helped me set it up. A slow heat crept up my chest. Not anger, something colder, something final. I froze every card, every account. Reset every password. Set alerts for every login attempt from any device that wasn't mine. 2 hours later, my phone started ringing. Caroline, then Serena, then Walt, then back to Serena. 10 missed calls in 40 minutes. No voicemails, they knew. They knew they'd been cut off. But by then, I had already started something I mentally labeled Phase 1. I didn't pick up. I didn't text back. I let them panic. And then, at 11:54 a.m., a new message came through, this time from Serena. "Can you call me ASAP? Something weird with the transfer. Mom said you approved it. Don't make this dramatic." My hands went cold. I hadn't approved anything. And if they were lying about that, what else had they gotten into? I didn't answer. I opened my laptop instead. And what I found next made my throat tighten so fast I had to sit down. Because the attempted transfer wasn't the only thing tied to their IP address. There was something worse, something big, something that would change everything. And that's where this really starts. People think family breaks all at once, like an explosion. But mine didn't. Mine rotted slow, quiet, steady, like mold under wallpaper you don't notice until the whole wall caves in. I grew up in Escondido, in a beige 2-story house my parents bragged about but never actually maintained. My father, Walt, worked construction on and off, mostly off. My mother, Caroline, floated between projects, interior design, dog grooming, party planning, whatever made her look interesting on Facebook. The one thing she never lost interest in was bragging about Serena. My sister, Serena Rhodes, was the miracle child. At least that's what Mom called her. She'd been surprise baby, born 3 years after me. According to my mother, Serena almost didn't make it, a dramatic story she retold constantly, though the older I got, the more I suspected it wasn't true. But that story made Serena special, untouchable, the center of the gravitational pull in our house. I was the independent one, the strong one, the she'll-be-fine daughter. That label followed me everywhere. When I got my first job at 16, My paychecks went toward family expenses. When Serena wanted braces, I got the off-brand, cheap retainer, while hers sparkled with whatever color she wanted. When we were teenagers, I applied for college scholarships alone. My mother helped Serena write her essays, except Serena didn't apply to college at all. She dropped out before the orientation she never attended. By the time I turned 20, I was already bailing them out of little disasters. Unpaid insurance bills, car repairs, missed rent. I told myself it was temporary, that once they got back on their feet, they'd stop asking. But they didn't get on their feet. They never even tried. I moved to San Diego after college and started my own digital bookkeeping business. I built it client by client, night after night, working from a tiny studio apartment with peeling linoleum. No one in my family helped, but once I started making real money, suddenly they all needed me again. It started with my mother's small favors, then Serena's temporary loans, then my father's just until next month requests. Somehow I became their lifeline, and I didn't fight it, not at first, because I still wanted to believe we were a family, even when I paid off their car, even when I covered their property tax shortfall, even when Serena called crying every few months because she'd messed up again. She never worked, never tried, but she always had a crisis ready. And the worst part? No one ever thanked me, not really. At most, they'd post some Facebook status about how family shows up for each other, which really meant I showed up while they drained me dry. When I met Marcus, he saw it instantly. He saw how I'd get tense when my phone buzzed with their names, how I'd change plans to send money, how I'd make excuses for people who never made any for me. The first time he asked, "Why do you let them treat you like this?" I actually got offended. That's how deep the conditioning went. But pregnancy changed everything. It was the first time in my life I needed support. Not money, not favors, just presence, just love, and they couldn't give me even that. For months, my mom kept saying, "We'll do something special for the shower, promise?" She even offered to host it, which meant I would pay and she'd take credit. But I said no. I wanted something peaceful, even small, with people who actually cared. Marcus and his friends helped me set it up at our place. It was beautiful. It felt like a new start. But as the day approached, the excuses started. My dad said he might have a thing come up. My mom said Serena was struggling emotionally again. I prayed they'd surprise me, show up anyway. Instead, they went wine tasting. To celebrate Serena. Again. And now, back in the present, staring at the evidence that the attempted $3,500 transfer wasn't an accident, I could finally see the full arc of it. This wasn't a one-off moment. It was the culmination of a lifetime of being the disposable daughter. And what I uncovered next, the part that tied their devices to something far worse than a transfer, would force me to face a truth I had been avoiding for years. My family didn't just neglect me. They had been using me, systematically, deliberately, and it was about to get uglier. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for my brain to catch up. The attempted transfer alone was bad. But what I found next, that was the part that made my chest tighten like someone had wrapped wire around my ribs. My security app showed 3 failed login attempts to my retirement account. Not just my business account, not even my personal checking, my retirement account. The one thing I had never shared, never logged into on their devices, never mentioned to anyone but Marcus. It wasn't just suspicious activity. It was targeted. Someone tried to guess the password 3 times in a row from an IP address in Scottsdale, where my parents lived. Same device signature, same pattern. I sat down slowly because the room tilted. My mom used to joke that she knew me better than I knew myself. But the idea that she might actually try to guess my passwords and nearly get into one hit me like a fist. Marcus found me still staring at the screen. "What happened?" he asked quietly. I handed him my phone. He didn't say anything for a long time. His jaw tightened, the way it does when he's doing the math on something ugly. "They're not just testing boundaries," he finally said. "They're testing access." Something in me turned to ice, because he was right. This wasn't impulsive. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't confusion with the accounts, like my mom would claim later. This was deliberate. I spent the rest of the morning checking everything: credit cards, subscriptions, auto payments, forgotten accounts I barely used. And every time I found another login attempt, another red flag, another unrecognized IP, I felt pieces of denial fall off me like dead skin. At 1:22 p.m., my phone buzzed again. Not with a call this time, with a group chat notification. Family Original, a chat I'd stopped using years ago but never left because I didn't want to start drama. Caroline had resurrected it. Caroline, Ellie, answer your phone, this is getting ridiculous. Walt, we need to talk right now, pick up. Serena, seriously, what is wrong with you? I didn't answer. I let the messages pile up. Marcus watched from the dining table, arms crossed. You know they're panicking because the money stopped, he said. Not because they're worried about you. I knew, God, I knew. But the worst message came next, exactly at 1:47 p.m., and I swear I felt my pulse inside my teeth. Caroline, if you're going to act like this while pregnant, maybe the baby is messing with your judgment. We need to step in before you do something stupid. Step in? My own mother talking about stepping in like she had a right to intervene in my life, while actively trying to drain my accounts. Something dark unfurled in my stomach. I blocked the entire group chat. At 2:03 p.m., Serena switched tactics. Serena, Mom said you're cutting us off during a medical crisis. WTF is wrong with you? Medical crisis? That was new. I stared at the message and felt my hands go cold. Marcus leaned over my shoulder when he saw my face. What now? I handed him my phone. He read it, then scoffed. Let me guess, there is no medical crisis. I shook my head, no. There wasn't, but the lie mattered. It mattered because Serena was escalating faster than I expected. They weren't just spinning stories, they were building a narrative. One where I was unstable, dramatic, hormonal, unreasonable. One where they were the victims. And then the calls started coming from numbers I didn't recognize. My aunt, my uncle, a cousin I hadn't spoken to since high school, all repeating some version of, we heard there was an emergency. Your mom said you're acting irrational. Try to calm down for the baby. Every call made the same assumption that my mother's version of things was the truth, that I was the problem, that I was supposed to fix it. And each call tightened something inside me that had already snapped the night of the baby shower. By 4 p.m., I had blocked 12 numbers. By 5, I had blocked over 20. And by 6, I realized something horrifying. This wasn't just a family spiraling. This was a coordinated effort to isolate me, control the narrative, and pressure me back into compliance. But the next day is when everything shifted, when I found something I wasn't meant to find. Something hidden, something intentional. And it became the first major twist in all of this. A betrayal deeper than any skipped baby shower. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying every message, every lie, every fake crisis Serena had invented, trying to piece together what the hell they were actually doing. By morning, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't about a skipped baby shower. This wasn't about hurt feelings. This was about money, mine, and the fact that for the first time in their lives, they no longer had access to it. But what I didn't know yet was how far they'd already gone behind my back. Around 9 a.m., as I was making decaf coffee I didn't even want, Marcus walked into the kitchen with a look that made my stomach drop. You need to see this, he said. He was holding a stack of mail he'd grabbed from the box outside. One envelope was thick, official-looking, with my business name printed on it. I opened it with my thumb, expecting a tax notice or insurance update. Instead, I pulled out something that made the world tilt sideways, a loan delinquency notice. Addressed to me, for a $15,000 personal loan. Taken out 3 months ago, from a credit union in Scottsdale, a loan I had never applied for. I scanned the pages so fast they blurred. My name was printed at the top, my business address, my social security number. But the signature at the bottom, it wasn't mine, it wasn't even close. I turned the page over, and that's when I saw it, the part that sucked the air out of my lungs. Primary applicant, Walt Rhodes. Co-signer, Ellie Rhodes. My father had taken out a loan in my name, 3 months ago, while I was pregnant, while he was still asking me for help with small bills. Marcus whispered, Jesus, Ellie, but I barely heard him. Because the device and IP logs in the attachment confirmed it, the application was filed from my parents' house, by their device. My father forged my name, then defaulted on the payments, and I had no idea. I sat down hard on the bar stool because my legs weren't working right. My hands went numb. I kept flipping the pages like maybe they'd magically rearrange themselves into something less destructive. but they didn't. My parents had committed identity theft months ago, and not for the first time, just the first time I caught it. "We need to call the credit union," Marcus said, already dialing. The representative on the phone was gentle, almost apologetic, as she walked me through confirming the fraud. She even paused when she said, "The application notes say the cosigner was present during submission." Present. In the same room, my father hadn't just forged my signature. He'd pretended I was physically with him. Marcus stayed silent, but I could see the muscle in his jaw twitching, the one that only jumps when he's furious. When the call ended, my phone buzzed with a text. From Caroline. Like she sensed the exact moment I found out. "Caroline, whatever you think happened, it wasn't malicious. Your father was trying to protect us. You owe us compassion right now." Compassion, for them. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then another ding. "Caroline. And remember, sweetheart, what we do in this family stays in this family. Don't make this bigger than it needs to be." That was it. The line. The moment everything snapped so cleanly, I actually felt lighter for a second. Because for the first time in my life, I saw them clearly. They hadn't just been using me. They had been planning around me, counting on me, strategizing how to extract every last dollar, every last ounce of support, without ever giving anything in return. And for them to commit fraud, identity theft, while smiling in my face, that was the betrayal that flipped the entire story. That was the moment I realized I wasn't dealing with dysfunctional family behavior. I was dealing with predators. And predators don't stop until they're forced to. Which meant it was time for war. But before I could even start planning my retaliation, something happened, something even Marcus didn't expect. A second twist was already waiting in the shadows. And when it hit, it changed everything I thought I knew about why they targeted me, and why they needed the money so badly. I thought I'd fall apart after learning my father forged my name. Cry, scream, break down something. But instead, I felt this eerie calm settle over me. Like a door in my mind finally slammed shut and locked itself from the inside. I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their target. And if they wanted a war, I wasn't going to fight it emotionally. I was going to fight it logically, legally, and methodically. Because unlike them, I didn't make messes, I cleaned them up. "Okay," he said, voice low. "Tell me everything they've ever had access to." So I started listing. Accounts, passwords, logins, subscriptions, shared plans, auto payments I'd forgotten existed. Every place where my name and their convenience overlapped. The list grew long enough that I had to switch pages twice. Marcus didn't flinch. He didn't judge. He just wrote and underlined and nodded. Then he asked, "Do you want to cut them off cleanly, or do you want consequences?" I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time in months, I felt something like power. "Consequences," I said. "All the way," he nodded. "Then here's what we're doing. Step 1, shut every door." That meant freezing every credit line, locking my credit with all 3 bureaus, requesting a fraud alert on every account, removing their old IP from my business software, switching my tax preparer access codes, changing every password to something they could never guess. He handled most of that with a quiet efficiency that made me fall in love with him all over again. Step 2, create a paper trail. I called the credit union and demanded written proof of the forged loan. They sent the PDF within the hour. I printed everything, the application, the signature, the logs. Then I filed a police report, not because I was eager to see my dad arrested, but because predators thrive in darkness. I wanted light, and records, and undeniable documentation. A detective called me back within 2 hours. He asked if I suspected the person. I told him I didn't suspect, I knew. Step 3, dismantle their lifelines. The monthly transfers to Serena, gone. The phone lines I paid for, disconnected. The grocery account, closed. Their streaming services under my Amazon plan, removed. Their health insurance gap payments, canceled. And for the first time in years, I felt my spine straighten. It felt like reclaiming oxygen I'd been letting them siphon off me. Step 4, legal reinforcement. Marcus had already emailed an attorney before I even sat down. By morning, we had cease and desist drafts ready to send. All 3 addressed individually: Walt, Caroline, Serena. The attorney added a note recommending we pursue a family financial disassociation filing, a formal declaration that legally separated my finances and estate from theirs. We filed it that afternoon. Step 5. Prepare for their inevitable meltdown. Because people like my family don't handle boundaries. They view boundaries as betrayal. And the moment leeches lose access to their host, they thrash. So we planned. A new number for me, a spam filter. Instructions for my friends on what numbers to block. A statement template in case they tried to spread rumors. Even a safe box with all the documents, just in case things escalated to court. By the time we finished, the sun had fully set and the house was quiet in a way that felt intentional, not lonely. I put my hands on my stomach and whispered to my baby, "I'm fixing this. For you," but right when I thought I had everything contained, sealed, handled, a notification pinged on my phone. An unfamiliar number. A state area code I didn't recognize. A message that froze the blood in my veins. "We need to talk about what your parents did with your name. This goes deeper than you think." I stared at the message as my heart pounded in my ears. And just like that, the second twist hit. A twist that made everything so much darker. The number that texted me wasn't local. Montana. A state I had zero connection to. At first, I thought it was a scam, a wrong number, something automated. But then the second message came before I could even react. "I'm an auditor with Glacier West Credit. Your name came up in an identity inquiry. Please call me." Identity inquiry. Those two words hit harder than they should have. I showed the texts to Marcus. He frowned and said, "Call from the office phone. Put it on speaker." So I did. My hands trembled as the line rang. A woman answered immediately. Professional voice. No hesitation, like she'd been waiting. "This is Lana Pierce speaking." "This is Ellie Rhodes. You texted me." There was a long silence on her end, long enough that I wondered if the call dropped. Then she said, very carefully, "Thank you for calling back. I need to ask you something direct, and I need you to answer honestly." My throat tightened. "Okay, have you recently applied for, co-signed, or authorized any loans, lines of credit, or housing applications in the state of Montana?" My blood turned to ice. "No," I whispered. "I've never lived there. Never applied for anything there." Another pause. Then Lana exhaled in a way that told me she already suspected the answer. "I was afraid of that," she said. She continued, her voice lowering. "Someone attempted to open an account using your full legal name, social security number, and business EIN. They also provided a scan of your driver's license." I froze. A scan. Not just numbers, not just guesses. A document. Before I could speak, she added, "But the ID looked wrong. The barcode didn't scan. The laminate was off. So we flagged it. And when we searched for matches, your name came up tied to an inquiry in Arizona." Arizona. "The forged loan." She kept talking, slower now. "The person who submitted the Montana application used the same mailing address as the Arizona loan. Same handwriting. Same pattern of forged documentation." My mouth went dry. "So you're saying, it was the same person, yes." Marcus closed his eyes and swore under his breath. Then she said the part that made my stomach drop. "The applicant listed a spouse on the Montana form, a woman. Different last name, a spouse. A woman, not my mother." My heart thundered. "Do you have the spouse's name?" Marcus asked. A paper rustled on her side of the call. "Yes, her name is Lydia Crane." The name meant nothing to me. But the weight in Lana's voice made it clear it mattered. I swallowed hard. "Who is that?" "That's what we're trying to determine," she said. "But here's where things get more complicated." I braced myself on the table. "The applicant wrote that you, Ellie Rhodes, were helping them secure temporary housing while they sorted out a family emergency." "And the emergency they listed," she hesitated. "They claimed your family was being evicted and you agreed to co-sign for them." Evicted. The word slammed into my chest. My parents. My parents weren't stable, they'd been on the brink for years. But evicted. Marcus leaned forward. "Are they in danger of losing their house?" Lana answered quietly. "According to the background check, they already did. 6 weeks ago." I felt the floor shift under me. 6 weeks. Meaning during the baby shower, during the wine tasting, during every lie about Serena's hard year. They weren't avoiding me because they were busy. They weren't choosing Serena because she was the favorite. They were hiding the truth. They lost the house. They were broke. And they were using my identity to rebuild under the table. But the final blow came when Lana said, "Miss Rhodes, I need to be honest. Based on the documents, based on the signatures, based on the dates and locations, the evidence strongly suggests one thing. My chest tightened until breathing hurt. "What?" I forced out. She paused. Then said with absolute certainty, "Your identity wasn't stolen by one person. It was done by two, and one of them was definitely your father." I swallowed hard. "And the second," she didn't hesitate, "your sister, Serena." I sat there frozen, unable to speak, because that meant the betrayal went deeper than I imagined. Deeper than money, deeper than negligence. Serena, the golden child, had been in on it. Actively, intentionally, secretly. And the reason, the real, horrifying reason, was still coming. I didn't talk for a long time after the call with the auditor ended. I just sat there, staring at the wall like the pieces of my life were rearranging themselves into a picture I had never wanted to see. Marcus eventually said my name, gentle, careful, but I couldn't answer, because everything suddenly made too much sense. The skipped baby shower, the attempted transfers, the sudden panic when I froze the accounts, the lies about a medical crisis, the forged loan, the second identity, the random woman in Montana, the eviction. It stopped being random. It became a strategy. But it wasn't until later that night that the truth finally exploded open. It came in the form of an email from Serena. Subject line, "Then just hear my side." I almost deleted it unopened. But something, curiosity, anger, maybe closure, made me click. The email wasn't long. It wasn't apologetic. It wasn't emotional. It was brutally honest. So honest it made my skin crawl. "Ellie, Mom said you'd lose your mind when you found out. She said you'd make yourself the victim like always, so I'm just saying the truth here because someone needs to. You were never supposed to know about the Montana plan. That wasn't for you. That was for them. They needed a place to stay. They needed to rebuild. They needed someone stable to be tied to legally. You owe them that after everything they sacrificed to raise us. You have money, you have stability, you have a supportive husband. I don't. They don't. Life didn't pick us the way it picked you. So yeah, we used your info, because you're the only one who could handle it, the only one strong enough to take the hit. And honestly, you should want to help them. If you won't do it out of love, then do it because they deserve compensation for what you cost them." What I cost them. The next paragraph was the one that hit so hard I actually felt nauseous. "Mom always said that if it wasn't for your pregnancy, they wouldn't be in this situation. You drained them for months with your drama and your needs and your emotions. You distracted them when they were already struggling. You stopped helping financially at the worst possible time. You forced their hand." My jaw dropped open. My pregnancy was the reason they felt entitled to commit identity theft. But the next part, the final part, was the blade Serena twisted. "I know you think you're the victim here, but Mom told me the truth. She told me about the night she almost left because of you. She told me how hard you were as a baby, how you ruined her body, how she cried every day after you were born, how you made her depressed, and she never recovered from that. She said having you chained her to a life she never wanted. She said you owed her a second chance. You were supposed to fix what you ruined." I stopped breathing. My mother had told Serena that I ruined her life, that I owed her compensation, that I existed as a debt to be paid, that my pregnancy triggered her worst memories, that helping Serena was repayment for the burden of raising me. It was sick. It was twisted. It was intentional. Marcus read the email over my shoulder. When he reached the part about me ruining my mother's body, I heard him whisper, "Jesus Christ." My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I thought my family was selfish. I thought they were manipulative. I thought they were lazy, entitled, dependent. But this was something colder. They didn't just want my money. They believed it was theirs by right. They believed I was born owing them, financially, emotionally, existentially. They believed my success was their property, and my baby was the thing that distracted me from serving them. This wasn't care, or confusion, or poor boundaries. This was a worldview, a belief system, a family doctrine, and it was horrifying. Marcus looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face, protective, furious, gutted. "You realize," he said softly, "they never loved you. They loved what you provided." I nodded slowly, because the truth was undeniable now, and chilling. Serena's final line in the email was the nail in the coffin. "Just remember." Mom said the only reason she had you was because Dad wanted a second paycheck in the future. So don't act surprised. This was always the plan. I closed my laptop calmly, too calmly, because there was only one thing left to do. End the plan, permanently. I didn't cry after reading Serena's email. I didn't shake, scream, or fall apart. I felt nothing, absolutely nothing. And that scared me a little how calm I was, how steady, how sharp. Because for the first time in my entire life, I finally understood. They were never confused, never overwhelmed, never in a rough patch. They were calculating. They built their entire stability on the belief that I existed to carry them, that my life was collateral, that my identity was a resource, that my future was theirs to sign away. And now they were about to learn what it feels like when the resource cuts off the supply permanently. The next morning, I walked into our attorney's office with a folder so thick it barely closed. Loan documents, the Arizona forgery, the attempted Montana application, security logs, screenshots of messages. Serena's email, printed in full. I placed it on the attorney's desk. "This is all of it," I said. She flipped through the pages, eyebrows slowly lifting. "Ellie, this is overwhelming evidence. You understand that if we pursue this, your parents could face criminal charges, possibly jail time." I nodded once. "I understand. And your sister too," she added, another nod. "Good." Marcus squeezed my thigh gently. No hesitation, no doubt. The attorney outlined the plan, won a full identity theft case, filed immediately with all agencies, including federal. 2, a civil suit for damages. Every dollar they stole or attempted to use, itemized, documented, recoverable. 3, a restraining order for harassment and fraud. Against Caroline, Walt, and Serena individually. 4, a cease and desist with enforced legal penalties, including financial repercussions if they attempted contact. 5, a formal request to place them on a fraud watch list, meaning they would have to prove identity at every major financial step for years. "Are you sure you want to proceed this strongly?" the attorney asked. Marcus answered for me. "She's sure." The certified letters went out the next day. 3 envelopes, 3 bombs. By noon, my phone exploded with notifications from unknown numbers, screenshots from relatives, distant cousins, family friends. Caroline was losing her mind online, posting vague accusations, calling me unstable, claiming I fabricated the documents, saying she was blindsided. But every time she posted, someone responded with, "We saw the legal notices. The documents are public. She has proof." They weren't supporting her. They were distancing themselves. Predators don't get sympathy when the evidence is undeniable. Then came the call that sealed everything. An officer from the Scottsdale police, informing me that my father and sister had come in voluntarily after receiving the notices. They confirmed the forged Arizona loan, confirmed the attempt in Montana, confirmed that they used personal information without explicit consent. When the officer finished, he said something that shattered whatever small piece of hope I had left. "They didn't seem concerned about the consequences. They said they assumed you'd fix everything like you always do." That was their plan. From the beginning, use, drain, repeat, even now. My voice came out level. "I won't be fixing anything." The officer paused. "I figured." Weeks passed. My son was born, beautiful, healthy, peaceful, a life untouched by the rot I'd come from. Caroline never showed up. Walt never called. Serena never sent a message. Good. Silence was a gift. Marcus and I sat on our couch one quiet night while the baby slept. No chaos, no demands, no crisis, just us. "I'm proud of you," he whispered. "For what?" "For breaking the cycle." I leaned my head on his shoulder and watched our son breathe softly in his bassinet. "They tried to take everything from me," I said. "My identity, my peace, even my future." "And you took it back," he murmured. I nodded slowly. "No, I didn't take it back. I reclaimed it." I looked at our son, warm and safe in the soft golden light. "And he'll never have to unlearn the things I had to survive. Not in this house, not with these parents, not with this life." I closed my eyes. "They wanted a second paycheck," I whispered. "But they forgot the most important thing." Marcus rubbed my back gently. "What's that?" "They raised the wrong daughter to mess with."